April 8, 1904. Cairo, Egypt. A hotel room. 3 days. And something that spoke. Section 1. Who he was before. Before Cairo, Aleister Crowley was already remarkable. Not infamous, not yet. That would come later. In 1904, he was a 28-year-old polymath with a Cambridge education, a serious mountaineering record, a comprehensive knowledge of Western esoteric tradition, and a restless certainty that the secret societies he had moved through were circling something real without ever quite reaching it. He had studied the Kabbalah, ceremonial magic, Eastern yoga, Buddhist meditation, and the complete corpus of Hermetic philosophy. He spoke multiple languages. He had climbed in the Himalayas. He had pushed himself physically and mentally to extremes that would have broken most people. He was, in short, a man who had spent years preparing for something without knowing exactly what he was preparing for. In March 1904, he arrived in Cairo with his new wife, Rose Kelly. They were on their honeymoon. Section 2. Rose. Rose Crowley was not an occultist. She had no particular interest in her husband's esoteric work. She had not studied magic or mysticism. She was not someone who claimed psychic abilities or spiritual sensitivity, which is what makes what happened next significant. In late March, Rose began behaving strangely. She entered what Crowley described as trance states. She told him that the god Horus was trying to contact him, that something was waiting. Crowley's response was not belief. It was testing. He showed her images from a book of Egyptian mythology and asked her to identify which deity was reaching out. She pointed to an image. He checked the name. Wrong god. He tried another approach. He took her to the Bulaq Museum in Cairo and walked her through the collection of funerary objects and sacred imagery. She stopped in front of a painted wooden stele, a funerary tablet from ancient Egypt, and said, "This is it." The stele depicted Ra-Hoor-Khuit, a form of Horus, a solar deity. It was catalog number 666. Crowley had not told her the catalog number. He had not guided her to the object. She had never visited the museum before. He went home and sat in the room. Section 3. The 3 days. April 8th, 9, and 10, 1904. At exactly noon on each of the 3 days, Crowley sat alone in a specific chair in their Cairo apartment, facing a specific direction, and listened. He described hearing a voice. Not internal, not a thought, not an impression. A voice with a specific quality. He said it sounded like the rustling of silk. It spoke at a consistent pace and delivered precise, complete sentences. He wrote down what he heard. The entity identified itself as Aiwas. It described itself as the minister of Horpar-Krat, which is a form of the child Horus, the god of silence and new beginnings. Over 3 hours across 3 days, Aiwas dictated 220 verses organized into 3 chapters. Crowley called what he received Liber al-Vel Legis, the Book of the Law. The text does not read like anything Crowley had produced before. His own writing was dense, elusive, sometimes deliberately obscure. The Book of the Law has a different quality, abrupt, compressed, sometimes cryptic in ways that Crowley himself admitted he did not fully understand. It contains passages he found disturbing, passages he disagreed with, passages he spent the rest of his life trying to interpret. He did not want to publish it initially. The content unsettled him. He also could not dismiss it. The stele, Rose's identification, the catalog number, the consistency of what he heard across 3 separate sessions. He published it in 1909. Section 4. What it said. The Book of the Law opens with a declaration that became the foundation of everything Crowley built afterward. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That line has been misunderstood more consistently than almost anything written in the 20th century. Crowley spent decades explaining that it was not a license for selfishness or hedonism. The word will in the text refers to something specific, your true will, the deepest purpose of your existence. The thing you are actually here to do, stripped of social conditioning, fear, and the accumulated weight of other people's expectations. The text claimed that humanity was entering a new age, that the old religious frameworks, the age of Osiris, of sacrifice and suffering and salvation through submission, was ending, that what was coming required a different relationship between human beings and the divine. It described the divine spark inside every human being, not as something to be earned or granted, but as something already present, already real, waiting to be recognized. Section 5. What happened after? The Book of the Law made Crowley's life significantly harder. He could not ignore it. He could not fully accept it. He could not explain it to anyone's satisfaction, including his own. He spent the next 44 years, until his death in 1947, building an entire religious and philosophical system around what he had heard in that room. He called the system thelema. He founded an organization to teach it. He wrote prolifically, produced paintings, composed music, and generated enough material to fill multiple library shelves, all of it orbiting what had happened on those 3 days. He died in a boarding house in Hastings, England. Broke, largely dismissed by mainstream culture as either a charlatan or a madman. The voice he heard in Cairo has been argued about ever since. Crowley himself never stopped wondering whether Aiwass was a separate entity, a part of his own higher consciousness, or something else entirely. He never resolved it. What he was certain of, until the end of his life, was that whatever spoke to him in that room was not him. He spent 44 years trying to understand 3 days. This week, we go inside those 44 years, what he found, what it cost him, and why it still matters.